Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast with your hosts, Jason Balin and Ian Horowitz.
Ian, what's up, buddy?
What's up, Jay? We flipped around. I'm home. You're at your office.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes sometimes. All good. All good. You never know where you're going to find us. Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 10th. Got a really fun episode ahead. If you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Ian and I tune in usually at least once a week, and we bring in some good, special, fun, experienced guests that we believe will provide all of you, if you're watching this on video, if you're watching this on our podcast, anyway, provide a lot of value. Today, we're going to be talking about creating enough cash flow individually so you can eventually replace your full-time job income if you choose to. You don't have to. I talk to a lot of real estate investors on a regular basis, and they're striving every day to quit their full-time job. That's their number one goal. But again, you don't need to, right? The beauty of real estate investing, no matter what asset class you're in, is you can keep a full-time job typically and still operate and invest and do it. This particular guest who we're going to introduce you to in a second, his goal was to quit his full-time job. So we're going to be talking about how he started. He bought some rental properties, he bought some flips. His current asset of choice is self-storage. So if you're interested in self-storage, it's definitely something you want to make sure you can tune in on. So we're going to just kind of go through his entire evolution, but with the goal of how he's been able to create enough cash flow to replace his full-time income and continue to grow that month after month.
Yeah, exactly. And I had the pleasure of meeting Jon, who we're about to introduce, at a storage event last year or earlier this year. Guy's a silent killer. It was really motivating to hear. I've talked about it several times of leaving my W-2 job, and everyone has their own needs and wants. So enough about us, and let's bring Jon in and hear his story.
Hey, Jon, how are you?
Good. How are you guys? Appreciate having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for hopping on. Why don't we just start real quick, just a quick background, who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Jon Farling, live in Columbus, Ohio. Lived in Columbus for about 15 years, I think. Wife, 2 kids. Currently, I guess financially free is what they call it. So right now I'm at home. 1 kid's at school, other kid's out running with mom, and just enjoying life.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely awesome. So I guess let's jump right into it. So your preferred method of investing is self-storage, and I guess let's go back a little bit. And how'd you even get into real estate investing, and what'd you do before, and what piqued your interest about real estate?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in real estate. Growing up, my parents built spec homes. We moved a lot too. They would build a spec home. They liked it, so we'd move into it. So I've always been around real estate, new construction. I love that stuff. I think my shift personally into it was when we had our first kid. Probably like a lot of other parents, you have your kid and you start thinking, okay, how am I going to pay for their education? How am I ever going to retire? And I remember using those, financial calculators, especially the retirement calculators, and and this was 2014, trying to figure out how we're going to afford all these things and be able to retire one day. And it looked like, running the numbers, I'm like, I'll never retire. I'm going to be working till I'm dead, basically. So that's when I started transitioning into real estate. Bought my first single family rental in 2015. Basically did all the work myself. Actually, I did all the work myself. And that was a nightmare, whatever it was, 4 or 5 months. Every single day I was over there. I was leaving my job early, like lunchtime. I did so to back up a little bit, I did outside sales for electrical contractor, starting in 2009, I think, 2008, somewhere in there. And was able to make good money, and I had a lot of freedom. But wanted to transition into real estate full time. So I was able to do that. my job was flexible, so I was able to kind of do real estate on the side there. And over the next few years, and not to go too fast here, but over the next few years, bought one single family per year, and wasn't scaling fast enough. So started researching in other areas and found storage.
Okay, so how did that how did that look? So you were working your full-time job and you were investing in real estate. What was the primary goal there? Was it to replace income? Was it to offset something? Like what specifically attracted you to real estate and to get involved? Like I know your parents were involved, but there had to be a burning reason to do it.
Yeah, it was the investing. At first it was just investing. Let's get in better, I guess, investment vehicle than my 401k. So yeah, that was my first goal, and hopefully and that kind of expanded into, okay, well, at least now we've got 2 kids. We've got, I think at the time, 3 or 4 rental houses. In my mind, that was, okay, each rental house is per kid, and that's how we're going to pay their education.
Right.
My plans have changed since then, but that's kind of the goal in the early stages.
Right. So the first house you did, I mean, while we're here, we might as well talk about it. Like, how'd you finance it? It sounded like you were doing some sweat equity. Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, and looking back now, that was in 14. I think into 13 is when I started looking. No, I'm sorry. I closed 15. So I started looking in 14. Looking back now, I mean, prices have doubled in our area, if not more. I bought the thing for $70,000. I did do bank financing. I don't know all the detail. I think I put about 20 into it. Not take that back. I think I had, I don't remember exact number. I don't know, 10, because I did all the work myself.
Right.
So I was all in, I think, around 80. But yeah, it was, once you figure my time, 4 or 5 months of doing it,
right.
Yeah, it was an expensive project, mostly because of time.
Yeah, and single family's hard. All real estate's hard. Everyone's like, oh, it's just like on TV. Let's go. It's super easy. And like even you're outside sales for electrical, right? Like you have a background in these trades, and I come from the construction world. It's it can get tough, right? Like, and I don't think people realize how much work actually goes into it. So you're doing these rental properties, and you're having a grand old time with it. What about the rental properties, I guess? Let's start with that. What did the single family properties, was there anything that you liked about that asset class?
Yeah, so I learned a ton. I learned basically everything from Bigger Pockets, and that parlayed into storage, just real estate, just the basics for real estate investing. So yeah, I like that idea. Initially grew to, okay, let's try to scale this thing to where I can get out of my job. So I like the passive money, and for the most part, the renters I had were awesome, and that was learning how to find good tenants.
Right.
But yeah, it was super passive. I mean, I didn't really. It was a lot more passive than my storage, which I like storage more because I like to have my hands on things. But yeah, rental properties, as much as I liked how passive they were, they're almost too passive until you have to fill them. Someone moves out, then you have to fill them. But yeah, I really didn't do anything. Never got any calls for the most part.
Too passive. I wish that was the case on all of them. That's all good. I mean, that's good though. So let's kind of talk a little bit about storage, and obviously this podcast isn't necessarily just about storage. I think a lot of it has to do with kind of mindset, and I think there is a lot of folks that want to be full-time real estate investors, and that might not even be the right answer for them, right? Yeah. Sometimes when I talk to borrowers that come to us that want to loan, some clients of ours, they're like, yeah, like they apologize that they're not full-time real estate investors. And I'm like, you don't have to apologize. Like, it's fine. Number one, you might not be in a position yet. Number two, you might not want to. Some of the most successful people that I know, and they're the most successful real estate investors I know, do not do real estate full-time. They do it part-time because they enjoy what they do. They have good income. They stick to what they like. And then they use real estate as kind of an asset that they invest in. And let's be honest, and you could probably attest to this, being a full-time real estate investor is very different than owning one property and owning one rental or owning one self-storage. Like, your day-to-day is not necessarily finding deals, doing construction, doing the stuff that you might enjoy and you love. It's managing, raising capital, creating marketing campaigns, and you're more in the office than in the field. So again, that might, for instance, like, that's good for me. I enjoy that, but I certainly understand others that don't. So let's talk a little bit about the transition to storage, and first, why you like storage. Like, why did you originally get into storage? Like, what attracted you to that business model?
Yeah, and as time went on, I found other things, but the first thing was an SBA loan. So I'll back up a little bit. I had 4 single family rentals, did a flip. I was trying to find multifamily at the time, couldn't find anything. And looking back now, this is only 2-3 years ago. Probably anything I bought then would have made sense now. But I couldn't find any multifamily at that point for me, because I was doing it part-time. Couldn't find any single families that made sense. So I started looking at other avenues. I mean, I looked at everything from Subway franchises to handyman companies that I could buy, anything that I could maybe generate somewhat passive income. That kind of led me to a car wash down the street where I live. And going down that path, I found out about SBA loans, where I think for that car wash, I was able to bring, don't quote me, but it was 5 or 10%. Something different with that, I was able to bring less money. The deal fell through, but started researching SBA loans a little bit more and found that you can get an SBA loan for self-storage. So I could bring 15% down, basically less money down and into a bigger asset. So that's originally what attracted me to storage. And then I found Mike Wagner, Storage Rebellion, and the rest is kind of history. But the SBA loans is what attracted me to storage.
So the financing side, you started with the money, and then you figured out kind of what asset to invest in.
And time out before you go praising Wagner, you already had a lot of stuff, and I'm not putting Wagner down. You had a lot of stuff figured out when I first met you. I was quite impressed. But I'd like to make a point. If we could go back, what did you say earlier? You said those deals 2 or 3 years ago would have been great deals today, right? And you passed on them because you thought you were at the top of the market. And I'm not saying just buy it because it's going to work, but you're going to do, and Jason tells me this one all the time, is you're going to do the best deal that's presented in front of you at any given time, right? And that deal at that time might have been the best deal, and you might not have been able to see around the box. Now you're looking back at it going, God damn it, I should have bought that. And I think we all have deals like that, but you start looking at deals and saying, this is the best deal that's presented in front of me. Is it worth my time, energy, and effort? Check the boxes. Okay, let's do it. And let's see what it looks like in a few years. This is a very interesting point because the market has done nothing but hockey stick up. And the other point, talking about financing is, self-storage does provide an interesting loan programs through the SBA. And I guess not only did you do the SBA, but you were able to find owner financing on some of these deals, right? Yep.
2 of them are seller finance.
Right. And you got a stupidly low interest rate, well below market, if you'd like to let everyone know, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Two of my deals, and I actually learned this from Tim Bratz. I don't know if you've heard of him, partner investor. I was talking to him one time, and he said, if you can't, and this was before I got into storage, but he said, if you can't make a deal work, but you can get into seller financing, see if they'll do it for 0% interest. So both those deals at the time, I thought I was paying more than what they were worth. But I made it work with 0% interest. So They got their number. Both of them are for 24 months. They got their number. I got my terms, basically. I'll turn the thing around and get a bank loan here in about a year or so.
Yeah, and you're rapidly paying down debt. You've increased your balance sheet. You've increased cash flow. It makes you more bankable. You're checking all these boxes. I was talking to our project manager. He's talking about moving, and he's like, well, what if I move and the market dips? you're paying principal down every month. You've put cash into deals, and Jason will talk about this a lot. As you put cash into deals, you have a lower equity position, and if you're retaining it for a long period of time, it's okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to weather that storm over a long period of time.
Yep.
No, good, Jay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, and I think a lot of people that get scared and stuck, and I think all of us, is to be over leveraged on some of these projects. But in due time, even if you overpay and make a mistake on an asset, like you said, every month all your money's going towards principal to this guy. I'm guessing unless his interest only at 0%, but regardless, it works. And I think all of us have kicked ourselves in the head of deals that we passed on because we've all believed that the market's been at the top for such a darn long period of time, right? And there's a lot of people, and I don't want to call them suckers because that's not what they are, but they were ballsy enough to kind of hop in and be really aggressive over the last few years, and they made a fortune because of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully folks like that still have good key principles, so they don't believe that that's going to continue, right? Because one day, you're going to pay a premium for something, and all of a sudden, I'll put my hand on the screen, it's going to be here, the next day. Yeah. But, it's good.
It's got a cash flow. That's at the end of the day, it has the cash flow.
Exactly. That's actually what Ian was just saying was true. It's like, hey, if the numbers work today, they work, right? Especially on these longer term stuff. A lot of people, at least that Ian and I communicate with, do a lot of fix and flips, right? So like that's timing the market a little bit more, right? Because if you got to get in and out of that thing very, very quickly. But if you buy a property for $100,000 today and it spits out whatever, $1,200 a month in rent or whatever it is, right? And figure out your debt service and everything else, and if the numbers work, it spits out $400 a month positive cash flow, whatever the number is. It doesn't matter if that $100,000 property is worth $50,000 tomorrow, right? It might even be a better thing. Your taxes could potentially be reduced, but in general, yeah, we want all these things to appreciate over time, and typically they will, but they might be like this before they end up going higher. So
you're going down this track, right? And I know we got a little off topic. I was trying to keep a timeline here. Is you got 4 rental properties. You're sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jay, but you got 4 rental properties. You're still working your W-2 job. You stumble into self-storage. I'm assuming you lock up a deal. How do you make? I guess let's go through your first deal, self-storage, and then what just set you off to be like, I'm going all in, and to eventually get you to quit your job.
Yeah. So some quick and easy numbers. My first rental property that I bought for, we'll call it all in at $80K. I think I had roughly, with the down payment and everything, 20 to 25. No, I'm sorry, I had more than that. 40K, I think, in it. And I used a HELOC for that. So I was pretty leveraged on that, but it was cash flowing. My first storage deal, all in, I was around 50K, 55K, something like that. So I knew worst case scenario, my first storage deal, I was going to cash flow at least $800 a month. My first single family rental, I was cash flowing around $250, $275 a month. So right there, to me, that was a no brainer. Then once I got into the first storage deal, it was okay. I think the highest I thought I could go was about $1,200 cash flow a month. I've more than tripled that since then. So yeah, it was, I wrapped up, or got 2 storage deals in contract within, I think, 2 or 3 months of each other. Once those were rolling, I knew I was all in on storage. And that was basically it was just over a year ago.
Yeah, it's not, and it wasn't even all that long ago, which is good, which is very, it's good. It's good to hear that in general. I know a lot of people sometimes get discouraged and frustrated because you bought those properties 10 years ago, they appreciate it. And it's like, there's never a better time to start than now. So just do it. And we'll just hop in this question real quick. And, it's a little bland, it's a little broad, but how do you create enough to retire? I'd like to know related to cash flow. And I mean, listen, I don't want to say that on a full level, it's simple, but you gotta simplify it, right? So it's like, how much do you need to retire, right? $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $1 million. I mean, whatever that is, monthly. The number doesn't, numbers don't work. You're never off, right? It works any way you want to do it. You got to start kind of high on your goal sheet and then work your way backwards. If you want $250 extra a month, and you buy one, single family house that spits out $250 or $300 a month, you start with that and you grow and you grow and you grow. It doesn't happen overnight where any one of us has just purchased $10 million worth of properties and they spit out, $1 million a year in gross income for us. It doesn't work like that, right? Nobody's done that. All of us have very similar stories and similar paths. And we all capitalize on the resources that we potentially have, the resources that we each individually have, and on the other side, what we want to do. Like Ian likes the construction side. I don't like the construction side. I don't want to get my hands dirty. I want to be more kind of on, the LP side on multifamily and storage stuff. And I want to be active, in the lending space because that's what I enjoy and I like doing. So I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
Well, Jay, real quick to that question, and this relates perfectly to Jon, is you were thinking about retiring as you're buying these. Did you do anything to reduce expenses? Were you like, yo, if I change X, Y, and Z or pay these debts down, did that put you in a better position to be able to retire, or did you just keep life status quo?
So, and this is unrelated, to kind of skip back, I think for his question, the biggest thing is probably my first step was tracking my expenses, personal expenses, every single one, everything we bought, paid for, tracking your net worth, and then kind of reverse engineering that. You do those things. It's like with anything. If you're working out, you need to lose 10 pounds. Guess what? You're probably tracking that every day, maybe weekly, whatever. What you track grows. And that's what helped me. I was tracking that. And I was, we can talk more about it, but very goal oriented. I wrote my goals down all the time. So I think even if it wasn't going to be storage or real estate, the fact that I was tracking my expenses, tracking my net worth, that's going to grow one way or another. Whether I got into, who knows, day trading, buying basketball cards, whatever it is, that was going to grow just because I tracked that.
Yeah. And like you said, when we started, it wasn't necessarily real estate as the path. It was something related to business in general, something that you could, replace your income from, starting a franchise, buying a Subway. I mean, that's what it is in general. Real estate might not be the best path for people. I mean, the same person commented, do I do apartments or houses? I mean, again, it depends on what you want and what you're passionate about and what you're willing to go all in on. I mean, listen, think about it like this. If you want to replace your job and your income, and it really depends how serious you are, right? How much time do you spend at your job or your normal job? 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week? Well, start doing this 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Well, I don't have time. Well, then you might not be serious enough to do it. I mean, if you want something bad enough, you're going to do it. I mean, everybody wants the instant gratification without putting in the hard work. And I do like the comparison to losing weight and working out, because that is hard in general. This stuff's not going to fall on your lap. And I believe, and Ian and I talk about this a lot, I believe that when you have a market like this, it actually hurts a lot of people because they believe they can just go on MLS, find a property, go buy it, rinse and repeat. And they don't, and all of a sudden, they go 5, 6, 7 years of being successful real estate investors without understanding the core principles of how it even happened. There's a lot of liquidity in the marketplace right now. Deals are able to be found on MLS, right? So finding deals, finding money, two big things are handed out right on a silver platter. And then all of a sudden it just shuts down, quickly. So again, you take advantage of it. I'm not stating that you shouldn't do that. Taking action and doing that's important. But again, it's, any successful real estate investor or business owner will tell you that it's hard work and they stay up late, they do their thing, and they have goals, right? And Jon defined his goals from the beginning. That was exactly what we've been talking about of this is what I want. This is what I want to do. And let's be honest, the word retire doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I want to go, make $10 million and go disappear onto a beach, right? It could just be, in this case, hey, I want to make enough money so I don't have to go work at this place anymore. And whatever, that might only be a few $1,000s a month, right? And then that's a hell of a lot more attainable to somebody than, I want to be this king over here.
I don't think a lot of people track their expenses, my opinion. I don't think people know what they even spend. I mean, talking to some of my friends, they're like, yeah, you know, I ate out the past 4 days in a row. I'm like, you know how much money you just spent?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
No, they don't. And it's scary. I mean, obviously my W-2 job, in the fire department, I hear, we see all walks of life, and it's amazing. Some people just finance everything. They have no clue what they're spending, paycheck to paycheck. I'm like, dude, you got 30 years in the fire department. Like, what are you doing? How do you live paycheck to paycheck? Like, this pension's not going to just magically take care of you. Me and Dan, actually, and it's funny, we brought this topic up. We recently stumbled onto this website called app YNAB, youneedabudget.com. And it's real-time budgeting, because a lot of people, and thanks for putting us onto this topic, but, my business partner, Dan, is a big Dave Ramsey. That's his, what he enjoys. But creating budgets, YNAB actually creates it in real time. You can bucket money, but the way it comes in, you can only budget your money based on the money that you actually have available to you at that immediate moment. And you bring up a really valid point, because Hinckley, Danye maybe, who's commenting, it doesn't matter what you want to invest to. If you're not bankable, or you don't have the wherewithal, or even understand your position, you're never going to be able to retire or be able to buy assets that you want.
Yeah. You can't take care of your household expenses. How are you going to take care of your business expenses? It's the same mindset, it's the same philosophy. How are you going to flip a house? You know, many real estate investors that I do loans for that flip houses that I'm like, I don't see how you're going to make money on this thing. And they don't know how they're going to make money. They don't have proper systems in place. They don't have, like, they miss accounting for things. They try to do things themselves. So whatever. We got a little bit off kind of.
I like that topic. Let's stay right there.
That's good stuff.
But
I mean, we can keep talking about that, or we can keep talking about some storage stuff.
No, we should hear how. So John buys his first storage.
Okay.
How is that different than like single family? What you were doing in the storage world? Like, what does that look like? Well, like, what does owning a storage asset look like compared to owning a single family property?
Yeah. So I remember when I started researching storage, probably the first time I talked to Mike Wagner. So it would have been end of 18, I think. I knew I was leaving my job. I just didn't know how I was going to get there yet. And I remember telling him, single families are great, but they're almost too passive. And I'm already thinking ahead. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my time? If I've got 100 single families, obviously 100 single families is a lot of work. But the way he kind of explained storage to me was, you can kind of work when you want. In ways. So I really like that. Storage is, you've got your hand on top of everything, controlling everything. But you can, I can delegate whatever I want. Tomorrow I'm actually going to move some stone. I'm renting a skid steer, going to do it myself. I can definitely pay for it. But I'm going to have fun doing it. With single family rentals, that I wouldn't have been able to do that, more than likely. But yeah, that, storage, it's as passive as I want to be. I could live 2,000 miles away and run it and have no problems. I can live 50 miles away, which I live from, that's the distance I live from some of mine, and be as hands-on as I want. So I really like that aspect. I can jump in when I want and jump out when I want.
Do you think, are you the type of person that would buy, let's say you were buying multifamily or rentals again, would you buy them out of market, or would you only buy them in market?
Wherever it makes sense.
Wherever it makes sense. Just curious, because I know a lot of people, like me personally, like I don't really. I feel like a lot of the fix and flips and the real estate stuff, residential stuff, make it's a little bit easier locally.
Mm-hmm. Your market.
Yeah, exactly. But again, there's a lot of areas of the country, unfortunately, that it's hard to fix and flip in, or it's hard to own rentals in, and then vice versa on others. I mean. A lot of the coasts, East and West Coast, it's hard to make sense of some of these deals. Those numbers just don't work. But then other areas, they work really well, and vice versa. So
I think storage kind of makes it, and there's a couple of things you need to look at, but storage kind of makes it easier to underwrite, in my opinion. And granted, I know it better than multifamily at this point. But yeah, I mean, I can look at an area and especially if you're buying a facility that's already up and running, you're basically thinking that's your worst case scenario.
Sure.
Until you come in and do value adds and put in your own management system. So yeah, with storage, I'd be comfortable anywhere for the most part. Yeah, multifamily is a little different.
Yeah, and I think storage provides integration with technology and a few other things that put you at competitive advantages. And if you want to talk about that, why you can do it anywhere in this country. You want to talk a little bit about like what advantages storage has?
Yeah, easy storage solutions. So it's a website, call center. It's integrated into your gate. So if someone's late, they're locked out of the gate. So you don't need to lock their unit. And then I use boots on the ground guy that, depending on the size of the facility and kind of timing of the year, they may be putting 2 to 10 hours a month at the facility. So it's very minimal work with storage. Most properties have very minimal upkeep, clean up trash. Obviously, someone moves out, you got to sweep it out, clean out whatever may be left over. But yeah, it's very low maintenance. It's very easy to set up systems now that the technology, easy storage solutions, and others like them have come into play. I don't know how long they've been around, 4 or 5 years, something like that. But yeah, the kiosk was kind of the first piece of technology to enter storage. It's become easier since then. So.
Yeah, I think there's technology is leaps and bounds ahead in the storage industry, maybe based on the way the asset class works, comparatively speaking to multifamily and single family, right? Like I can't just go and rent a unit online with single family or multifammy. Yeah. So there is advantages to it, and there's a little bit more ease of management. It's a little more forgiving of a business, but I would bet. And Jay, you just met Jon. Would you take this bet that if Jon found a multifamily building that worked in his realm, that you'd be able to run that too, right? Like in the end, it's all about it. These are really cogs to us, and you're a good real estate investor, right? Like that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, being successful in one thing, you're gonna be, that person's gonna be successful in another thing. It's the same simple. It's the same formula, right? You follow the same kind of principles. What is your kind of game plan with storage in general, or assets? Like, so for instance, and I don't exactly know how far along you are related to like long-term goals, but let's say, hey, well, I recently quit my job and I, make whatever this amount of money now. What's like your next step? Like, are you kind of full throttle type of like, hey, I'm here. My next step is to try to get to this benchmark, then this benchmark, or is it kind of like, hey, I'm in a good spot right now. All my stuff's kind of covered. I'm on easy street.
I'm on easy street, but financially we are. But I'm in a somewhat frustrating position because I'm in seasoning period now.
Yep.
So all my deals I've done by myself. I did borrow a little bit from my dad, private money. But other than that, I've done them all myself. So, my next deal is either I've got to expand at least 3 facilities. But yeah, I want to keep growing storage. I'm also looking into maybe buying some small businesses. I think that'd be fun. And I talk to a lot of people about this. I don't have that pain where I want it out of my 9 to 5. So I don't have that. Not that I'm not motivated, because I am. It's more competition now at this point. So I hear Ian's buying. He's up to 7 or 8 facilities now. That drives me. I want to be double him. So that gets me going. But yeah, as far as having to, no, we're very fortunate we don't have to at this point. But yeah, it's frustrating because I have all this equity and I'm in a seasoning period, and then there's not much I can really do right now.
Well, luckily, it's the first time you met Jason, but maybe you can find an equity partner. Wink, wink. I heard there's a guy on this show that's looking to invest into other deals. But that's a serious comment. Is that like whether it's us or somebody? Is that you said I borrowed money from my dad, right? Like there's ways that if you want to get out there and do more deals, you could find the capital, especially in this marketplace. And wink, wink, there is 2 equity partners on here should you need something. But The other thing sorry, Jay, I don't mean to cut you off. What I wanted to mention is now I forgot my train of thought. Screw it, Jay, go. I screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, a lot of people think, well, I don't have the capital, and it's, you did a deal without any capital for the most part. Well, definitely out of your own capital, you didn't, but with seller financing, private lender. It doesn't have to be a family or friend. It could be just a regular private lender. There's tons of capital. And I'll say, I get a lot of folks that reach out to us now in this market. They're like, well, why, you used to do 100% financing. Why why did you reduce that? It's like, well, the market's high. The market's inflated, right? It was easy to get one lender to give you 100% financing when, you could get a property under market value. And that's hard to do now. That doesn't mean that you can't do, the OPM model. You can still get other people's money. You have a multiple capital stack, right? You get a hard money lender or a bank to put up, first position money. Then you get some sort of private lender to put up second position money. Maybe you do it as debt. Maybe you do it as equity. You get creative, right? There's lots of ways. I mean, there's the majority of the deals that I do technically aren't even our own money on these deals, right? That's just the way that's set up. Most people in general, I mean, even the biggest real estate investors out there, they're usually not using their own money. Yeah. Not that they don't want to use their money. They do use it on stuff, but like, someone that owns, let's say like $100 million in real estate, gross real estate, like that seems like a really, really big number, right? But like, it might not be, right? If, it could be a few projects. Actually, let's use a smaller number. Let's use like $10 million because Ian owns a property worth $10 million. That doesn't mean that Ian has $10 million
right.
in cash or liquid that he's putting into that deal. He had very little money that he put into that deal.
Well, and that's where you get into this, like, it's funny that we talked about having a budget, maybe Dave Ramsey and not using debt. Sometimes you're doing a disservice to yourself. There's a time and place for leverage. I mean, Sam Zell, one of the biggest real estate investors out there, literally talks about it in his book. Warren Buffett, you want to get outside of real estate. Warren Buffett talks about it in his book. He went out and raised money from all his friends and family to go create this massive amount of wealth. So yeah, it's real interesting. Hey guys, we got a few minutes left. If you guys want to ask questions, I see some coming in. We'll get to them in a second. I do want to, so just post them up there. Whatever group you're on, they will come in. I do want to ask John one other thing, and that's what I was going to bring up. When you started, you quote unquote retired from your W-2 job, and you're saying right now you're frustrated because you can't grow. There's some people out there that they retire and they're like, they just go concentrate on family things. I guess, is it hard for you not being able to continue to buy like right now because you're constrained? Is that like, is there like this inner thing that's tearing you apart, not be able to, because I think humans want to always be growing, right? Like, and if you're not doing something, you feel like you're dead. It might be a little harsh words, but that's truly what it is. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that and how you feel about it.
I mean, I'm struggling with that. I'm new at this since August, so it hasn't been 6-7 months, whatever it's been. Every day, I don't want to say every day. Every day is a struggle because my struggle is not all that bad. But yeah, it's I want to keep growing, and I'm still looking for deals. What helps me is I try to create as much as I can small wins. So for me, yesterday I think I put together 8 to 10 mailers that I'm sending out. That's a small win for me. That makes me feel productive for the day. I've learned that I need to do those things. I need to find issues and fix those issues with solutions that I've found to make myself feel better. And then that way I can spend more time with my family throughout the day. Because the days, especially when, a few months ago when this was all new and I'm like, I can kind of do what I want. And I was still, my last 2 facilities about in August and November. So I'm still trying to stabilize those. But yeah, there were days where it's like, I'm not going to do anything today. And I feel like garbage. I've found that I need to stay productive and create small wins each day and try to have somewhat of a uniform schedule, I guess, to stay on track.
You can come down here for a week because I know you're a relatively good golfer, and so is my friend to the other side here. So we could have a grand old time. So just come on down and we'll go golfing. We do have a few questions, Jay, if you want to pop.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop those up. I don't know if you guys can see this on your guys' end. I can see it on my end, but we got a bunch of thumbs up and a bunch of hearts, and then we got somebody who was angry. So I don't know why. Maybe if you're really angry, comment why, and maybe we can make you unangry and happy that you're watching this and learning, or maybe you just accidentally push the angry button instead of the heart and the thumbs up. But I figured I'd chat that.
He's probably mad I haven't called him back.
No, it says who it is. But I could call him out, but I'm not going to. Hopefully we can make them angry by maybe provide them even more value. So here's a question. Hey guys, good morning. My question is, I'm guessing when she uses the term buying a storage franchise, I'm guessing that means an existing facility or building one from scratch. You're talking about, let me just go, there's another one related to this. Whoa, about when investing real. So I'm not fully sure. I mean,
well, this is how I understand it. John, would you rather buy a underperforming existing storage facility or just go in and build something ground up? That's kind of what I'm reading here. Like what's more risky in your opinion?
To me, risky is ground up. To me, that's a gamble. You're probably at least, if you're lucky, and depending on the size of the facility, maybe a year, 2 years, maybe 5 years away from filling that thing. So you're basically not cash flowing that entire time. So for me, yeah, I like to find facilities that are up and running, to where I know I'm going to make money day one, and then come in and prove it, and maybe 2x, 3x, 5x what the original cash flow was.
Yeah, and it's funny that I realized this is that like all of us doing single family and renovating them, there's no cash flow on day one. You're literally doing a new build, whereas multi-tenants, multifamily, industrial or storage, you have existing cash flow, help service the debt. You just need to go in and plug and play and fix that system, right? Like, so that's, it's one way to look at it, is that you're buying something with existing cash flow. Can you make the numbers work today? And it's only hopefully going to get better if you can fix that place up. So, yeah, man. So it's been awesome. Where's the best place that we can find you on the internet? Someone wants to get in touch with you. They have a storage facility that they want to sell you. Don't call John, call me. But if they do have something, where's the best place we can find you?
Facebook is probably the best place. Just under Jon Farling. I'm guessing you guys would probably tag me on here, and this is showing on Facebook, I think, right? So yeah, Facebook is probably the best place, and then can connect through phone call or an email after that.
Yeah, man. We got one more good question, Mike Kuser, and I'm glad to see you guys both got your books. What kind of improvements are you making to increase the cash flow in these storage facilities?
That's a great question. So it's actually, it sounds somewhat complicated, but really simple. Basically putting in a management piece. So the Easy Storage Solutions, which is the call center and the website, they take care of all rentals, collecting the money, basically anything with that. All the phone calls coming in, they take care of all that. And then I make sure to put in a gate. That's, as I said, beginning of the show, that's integrated with the call center. So if someone is late, they're locked out at the gate instead of at their unit. So for them to get access, they can literally call the call center or go online and pay and have instant access. And that's to rent a unit too, like same process. And then I put cameras up just because I'm not there all the time. My boots on the ground. People aren't there every day. So yeah, it's those three pieces. It's the call center / website. It's the gate, fence obviously, and then the cameras and boots on the ground guy. Yeah,
it's really just a management issue, right? Like, and when you get into these type of properties, and it's even single family, someone's mismanaged this property. You're stepping in, and what can you do to manage it? Now, storage is a little bit different because you're underwriting the value of the asset for real estate, but you're actually a service provider. You're providing a service, and the other CapEx things. You got garage doors, they're metal buildings. A lot of that CapEx type stuff is deferred a lot of the times because there's not a ton of stuff to do. It's really a management issue and a marketing issue from what we've seen. So,
and there's a lot of value add. with storage. Just simple things. Every owner I've bought from, none of them charge late fees, setup fees, auction fees, none of that stuff. And you make money from auctions too, a little bit. So yeah, there's just so many value adds with storage. Now I'm selling more people on storage and have more competition.
Have more competition.
No, it just means we can sell them our assets, right? And then we can all retire and go find the next best thing. So,
there you go.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with anything, right? It's like you can have everyone being, there's plenty of opportunities across the board, for those that will take action and do it.
Yep.
Google tells us there's 48,000 facilities nationwide. 48,000. And just think about Wagner's group. If there's 100 facilities owned in there, and it's a big group, that's probably a lot, right? Scott Myers, another big guy. If they own maybe 500 or 1,000 in that group, I mean, you haven't even cracked the surface of this industry. Not to mention, there's a ton of development going on. There's houses going up everywhere. There's a housing shortage. So there's a lot of demand out there. So, Jay, we got anything else?
No, I think we're good. Jon, we certainly appreciate you hopping on. I think you're tagged in this, but if you're not, we'll tag you. But also, if you want, you can just hop in the comment section and just make sure everybody gets your contact information.
Definitely. And appreciate you having me on, and appreciate the content you guys are putting out there.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. All right, guys. See you all next week on the Real Estate Reserve podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the